When you hear the name Gothmog, what comes to mind? For those steeped in the tales of Tolkien, it's likely terror, smoke, and flame. Gothmog, the High Captain of Angband, is no ordinary Balrog. He is their lord, their commander, and the right hand of Morgoth himself. Described in the Silmarillion, he embodies the raw power and malice of the corrupted Maiar, beings who once stood among the Valar and their servants before falling into darkness. In Ang and the fortress of Morgoth, Gothmog reigned as a symbol of dominance and fear. The bogs were few in number, but devastating in power, and Gothmog stood at their helm. His purpose wasn't merely destruction. It was to enforce Morgoth's will, to command legions of orcs and other dark creatures, and to bring the free peoples of Middle-earth to their knees. If Sauron is remembered for his subtlety and manipulation, Gothmog is remembered for his brute force and merciless efficiency. It's important to situate Gothmog's story in the First Age, an era where the world was young and the battles were grander than anything seen in the later ages. The wars of Bolor and spanning centuries pitted Morgoth's forces against the elves, men, and dwarves. Gothmog played a pivotal role in these wars, leading charges, devastating cities, and shaping the fate of the First Age. Tolkien doesn't offer us a physical description of Gothmog beyond what we know of the Balrogs, beings cloaked in shadow, wreathed in flame, wielding whips of fire. But his title, Lord of Balrogs, speaks volumes. He was not just another lieutenant. He was Morgoth's enforcer, the one called upon for the most critical and devastating battles. What sets Gothmog apart isn't just his role, but the sheer dread he inspired. The elves of Band, despite their valor and skill, spoke of him with fear. Even among the Noor, whose pride often outstripped their caution, Gothmog's name was a reminder that some foes could not be overcome without terrible loss. Stay tuned as we journey deeper into Gothmog's most infamous deeds, starting with his pivotal role in the death of Fëanor, the most fiery and prideful of the Noor. Let's step into the Dagor-nuin-Giliath, the battle under stars. It was here, during the earliest days of the First Age, that Gothmog cemented his fearsome reputation. Fëanor, the creator of the Saril, and perhaps the greatest of all the Noldor, had pursued Morgoth to Middle-earth after the theft of his jewels. Driven by an insatiable rage, Fëanor led his people in a relentless charge toward Angband. But he was about to face a foe even his fiery spirit could not overcome. Gothmog emerged from the gates of Angband at the head of a host of Balrogs. As Tolkien recounts in the Silmarillion, these demons of fire and shadow descended upon Fëanor and his vanguard with devastating force. Despite his unmatched skill and the light of a man that still shone in him, Fëanor was no match for the High Captain of Angband. Gothmog's fiery whip and sheer physical might overwhelmed the Elven king. The fight between Fëanor and Gothmog was not just a clash of arms, but a battle of wills. Fëanor, filled with the light of the two trees and the pride of his house, stood defiant against the Balrog Lord. Yet even the greatest of the Noor could not withstand the combined power of Gothmog and his kin. In a moment of brutal finality, Gothmog struck Fëanor down, delivering a wound so grievous that it could not be healed. As Fëanor lay dying, his sons surrounded him, desperate to protect their father, but the damage was done. The loss of Fëanor was a catastrophic blow to the Nor. He had been their leader, their brightest star, and now he was gone. In his final moments, Fëanor cursed Morgoth and urged his sons to continue the fight. But even his fiery determination could not undo Gothmog's deadly triumph. The death of Fëanor set a dark tone for the wars to come. It was a reminder that Morgoth's servants were not to be underestimated. Gothmog, in particular, became a figure of hatred and dread among the elves. His slaying of Fëanor was not just a victory for Angband, but a symbolic crushing of the Nor's spirit. With Fëanor gone, the Nor faced the harsh reality of their struggle against Morgoth's overwhelming power. Gothmog's role in this battle solidified his place as one of the most feared and reviled figures of the First Age. Next, we follow Gothmog's rise to even greater infamy as we explore his role in the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. As the First Age wore on, the conflict between Morgoth's forces and the free peoples of Middle-earth escalated. The Nirnaeth Arnoediad, or Battle of Unnumbered Tears, stands out as one of the darkest and most devastating moments in this struggle. Among its countless tragedies was the death of Fingon, the High King of the Noldor, at the hands of Gothmog. This moment not only showcased Gothmog's savagery, but also dealt a catastrophic blow to the Nor's hopes. The battle began with alliances forged between elves, men, and dwarves, a desperate attempt to break Morgoth's hold on Balrogs. Fingon led the western forces, his banner bearing the symbol of the House of Folin, a beacon of hope for those fighting against the darkness. But Morgoth, ever cunning, had anticipated their plans. His forces, led by Gothmog, waited to spring a trap that would shatter the united armies. As the battle raged, the initial successes of the Free Peoples turned to despair. Morgoth unleashed wave after wave of orcs, wolves, and other creatures of the night. At the height of the chaos, Gothmog appeared, leading a flank of Balrogs into the fray. His presence was like a shadow falling over the battlefield, and the defenders faltered under the weight of his assault. Fingon, ever valiant, stood his ground against Gothmog. Their clash was one of legend, the High King of the Noldor against the Lord of Balrogs. Fingon fought with the skill and valor of his house, but Gothmog's sheer strength and fiery malice proved overwhelming. In the heat of their duel, Gothmog struck a fatal blow, and as Fingon fell, the High King's death reverberated across the battlefield. Tolkien writes in the Silmarillion that Fingon's death marked the turning point of the battle. With their leader slain, the western forces crumbled. Gothmog's triumph was not just the death of a king, it was the death of hope for many who had followed Fingon into battle. The Nirnaeth Arnoediad ended in utter defeat for the Free Peoples, and the lands of Balrogs fell deeper into Morgoth's grip. Gothmog's slaying of Fingon solidified his reputation as Morgoth's deadliest lieutenant, yet it also set the stage for his eventual downfall. In the next chapter of Gothmog's tale, we'll venture into Gond, the hidden city of the elves, where his ferocity would lead to both destruction and his own demise. Gondolin, the hidden city of the elves, was a marvel of beauty and secrecy, built by Turon, Fingon's brother. It was protected by the encircling mountains and veiled from Morgoth's gaze. For centuries it stood as a beacon of hope, a sanctuary untouched by the darkness spreading across Ban. But Morgoth's malice was patient, and when the city was finally betrayed, it was Gothmog who led the charge that brought Gondolin to its knees. The betrayal came from Meglin, Turon's nephew, whose envy and lust for power led him to reveal Gondolin location to Morgoth. With this critical information, Morgoth unleashed his full might. The assault was relentless. Orcs, dragons, and Balrogs poured into the valley of Tumladen. At the forefront of this host was Gothmog, whose fiery presence struck fear into the hearts of Gondolin defenders. As the battle raged, Gothmog cut through the elven ranks with merciless efficiency. His whip of fire and black axe were instruments of devastation, and his leadership galvanized Morgoth's forces. The once hidden city, with its pristine white walls and towering spires, was engulfed in flame and ruin. It was a moment of utter despair for the elves of Gondolin. Arendale's family, including his father Tuor and mother Idril, were among those desperately trying to flee the city, but the focus of the defenders fell on the fight to protect their home. Among Gandalf's greatest champions was Ecthelion of the Fountain, who confronted Gothmog in the midst of the chaos. Their duel was as fierce as any in the annals of the First Age, a clash of light and darkness, of courage and malice. Ecthelion, though gravely wounded, fought with unmatched determination. In a desperate move, he drove the spike of his helmet into Gothmog, forcing them both into the waters of a fountain. The waters extinguished Gothmog's fire, ending the reign of the Lord of Balrogs. But it was a pick victory. Ecthelion perished alongside him, and Gondolin fell soon after. Gothmog's death marked the end of Morgoth's greatest lieutenant, but his legacy of terror and destruction endured. Gondolin's fall was a devastating blow to the free peoples of Middle-earth, but from its ashes came hope in the form of Eöl, whose descendants would one day lead to the downfall of Morgoth himself. Next, we'll reflect on Gothmog's enduring legacy and what his story represents in the epic tapestry of the First Age. Even in death, Gothmog's legacy casts a long shadow over the history of Middle-earth. As the Lord of Balrogs, he embodied the destructive power of Morgoth's forces, a living weapon forged to see despair. His name, whispered in dread among elves and men, became synonymous with the unrelenting malice of the First Age, a time when the world was young and the struggles against darkness were monumental. Gothmog's actions left an indelible mark on the First Age. The deaths of Fëanor and Fingon, two of the greatest leaders of the Nor, struck at the heart of the resistance against Morgoth. These victories were not mere battlefield triumphs. They were psychological blows that shattered the morale of the free peoples of Ban. Gothmog wasn't just a warrior. He was a symbol of Morgoth's overwhelming dominance, a reminder of the futility of resistance. The Fall of Gondolin, one of his final acts, was a devastating reminder of the fragility of even the greatest strongholds. Despite Galen's hidden location and the strength of its defenders, the city fell to Gothmog and Morgoth's forces. This event underscored the inevitability of destruction in the face of unchecked evil, but it also set the stage for future hope through the survival of Arendelle and his family. Tolkien's description of Gothmog, though sparse, paints a vivid picture of a creature of flame and shadow. As the leader of the Balrogs, he represents an aspect of Morgoth's corruption that is both physical and spiritual. The Balrogs were once mere beings of light and service, twisted into monstrous forms by Morgoth's influence. Gothmog, as their lord, exemplifies the ultimate fall from grace, a being of immense power turned to evil. What makes Gothmog's legacy even more poignant is its impact on the stories that follow. Though he perished in the First Age, his deeds echo through the age. The fear he inspired, the lives he ended, and the cities he destroyed are remembered in the songs and tales of Middle-earth's later days. Even in the Third Age, the shadow of the Balrogs lingers, as seen in the terror of the Balog in Moria. Gothmog's story is a testament to the enduring struggle between light and darkness in Tolkien's legendarium. His might was unparalleled, his deeds unforgettable, and his downfall a moment of hope amidst despair. It's a tale that reminds us of the price of courage and the resilience of those who stand against overwhelming odds. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the fiery depths of Gothmog's tale. What do you think about the role he played in shaping the First Age? Do you see him as a symbol of Morgoth's power, or a cautionary tale of the corruption of the Maiar? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Tolkien world, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Tales from Middle-earth. Until next time, may the light of Arendelle guide you.